Hey, how's everybody doing today? Hope you guys are having a great week. I wanted to share with you a couple of verses out of Proverbs chapter 11. And we're going to look at verses 1, 3, and 5. And those verses it says, first of all, the Lord detests the use of dishonest scales, but he delights in accurate weights. And then verse 3 says, honesty guides good people. Dishonesty destroys treacherous people. And then in verse 5, the godly are directed by honesty. The wicked fall beneath their load of sin. And, the thing, when it talks about scales, anytime somebody was a trader or a merchant, they would, in biblical times, they would utilize scales because everything was a barter system, whether it was, for this precious metal buys this, or, it was nearly all by weight. And so, a merchant would have a system to be able to weigh what he was giving someone and then what he was getting in exchange. And, dishonest merchants, it would be very easy to kind of weight the scale one way or the other to where, maybe it's just a little bit for each person, but maybe it shows a little bit more than there is when they're giving their goods, or a little bit less than there is when they're receiving. And the phrase here is that honest scales are a delight to the Lord. He delights in accurate weights. And what's the application of that? Well, the simple thing is that to change a scale or to have a dishonest scale, you had to plan ahead of time to do that. That's not something you could just do in a moment. So you had to plan, you had to follow through, and you had to make sure that your scale was, inaccurate from the beginning. And to do so honestly is the same thing. You have to make sure that your scale is accurate. And so I believe what the application is that we determine ahead of time that we're always going to tell the truth. We set that in stone before we ever get into a situation, whether it's in business with our employer or our employees or whatever it is, whatever our situation is, that we've determined ahead of time that we're going to let, like verse 3 says, let honesty guide us. And, that can be a simple thing, but it's also can be a difficult thing because a lot of times you have to tell people honest truths that maybe they don't want to hear. Okay, so when can you have this ready? Well, I'll have it ready by tomorrow, when you know that it's not going to be ready for a few days. But you're like, well, tomorrow I'll just tell them there's a delay or whatever. Well, tell them up front. Be honest with them. Choose honesty. Because there's two things about lying. Number one is you rarely ever get to tell just one lie. Lies beget lies. When you lie about one thing, you're going to have to lie about something else, either right behind it or down the road at some point. And there's going to come a point where you're going to be mixed up about which lie you told and which one you didn't. And it becomes a snowball effect. When you tell the truth, you don't ever have to think back about what you told somebody before. You just have to tell the truth every time you're in that situation. It's a much simpler way to live, but you also have to be prepared that sometimes that truth is not exactly what people want to hear. If you're in business and you're in a service industry or whatever, tell them, be honest with them. Hey, I can't do this until this point, or this is what this is going to cost. And it's in the long run, you'll gain more business because when you do that, your honesty is pleasing God, and ultimately you'll have more business. That there's this idea. Well, if I don't hedge the truth here, I may lose this business, or I won't make as much money, or do whatever. Well, you've got to determine whether or not you're going to trust God for your income and for what's coming down the road by being honest. And that doesn't mean that we're not smart. We don't try to be wise in business. You don't have to go out and tell somebody what your profit is, but if you're going to charge a certain amount for something, tell them what the amount is. And as believers, we need to live a lifestyle where someone asks a question or something comes up that we've already decided we're telling the truth. We've made the decision beforehand that our scales are going to be righteous, that they're going to be accurate, and that we're going to delight and please God by what we say. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to say everything that comes into your mind. If you walk by, you don't go, "Oh, you're ugly." I mean, that may be honest, but number one, it's your opinion, and number two, that's not beneficial, and nobody asked you. So it doesn't mean that we have to go around and give our opinions all the time. But what it means is that when we interact with people, that we do so honestly, and that you want to have the reputation of being someone that if they ask you questions, if they ask you for advice, if they do business with you, that you're always going to tell them the truth. And it's easy to destroy a reputation. It's hard to build one, but once you've built it, it becomes easier to maintain it at a certain point, because that's what people expect, and they come to you knowing that that you're going to tell them the truth. And so honesty is really it's not talked about much in our society, because people go, well, you live your truth, speak truth to power, and all these other phrases which mean absolutely nothing, because there is no your truth and my truth. There's just truth. And we have to be a people that speak truth. And if somebody comes up and asks you, hey, is the sky blue? Yes, the sky is blue. I mean, we give an honest answer. And there are certain things that are inviolable truths, and those are the truths that comes from God's word, and the things that we know that God has chosen, that God has deemed, that God has said this is the way it is, and our job is to just tell the truth. And when we start trying to please, or we start thinking about how people are going to react to what we're going to tell them, is when we are tempted to lie. When we're answering a question and we're telling someone something that is true, it should be done in a way that we know will please God, not in a way that pleases them. Because truth doesn't always please us. But truth is, what Jesus said, you'll know the truth. Truth will set you free. Lies enslave people, and enslaves you, and it also enslaves people that you're telling the lie to. So always be a speaker of freedom and truth. Always tell an answer that pleases God. So hope that helps you guys. Hope you guys have a great week, and we hope to see you this Sunday with us online or in person, and God bless.